Welcome to Mercedes and the Chap, a show dedicated to helping humans become extraordinary. Here we'll hone a well-rounded roadmap for us to step into our potential in all things relationships, purpose, work, and legacy.
Who do we have coming?
Oh, boy.
Yes. Who is this person?
We have got our sexpert in the house, Sarrah Rose. She's one of my favorite humans, and I'm so stoked that we got her on all the way from New York. She is basically just an all-around badass. She's going to teach us how to be a black belt in the bedroom today. She's a sex and relationship coach for men specifically. So these belts, I've said before, like, if I was in the dating world, I definitely would only date someone who has gone through Sarrah's courses, because I feel like then they're bona fide sex stallions. Then they are a man on fire. And now we can do business together.
Well said. And we had the pleasure of going to have some drinks with her last night, and it blew my mind.
Yeah. To put it lightly, I watched as your mind was blown.
Whoa.
So I'm excited to jump into this episode.
And I didn't say check, please, although that's what I wanted to say. I'll see y'all tomorrow.
You kind of like slunk down on the table.
I'm
like,
not real confident, guys. I know I'm surrounded by these hotties, but whatever. It's all good.
Let's jump into this, though. I cannot wait to share what she's got for us in store. Sarrah, it is so amazing to have you in studio with us. I feel like this has been a long time in the making. You've been on Zoom with me a lot of times, but this is way better seeing your gorgeous self in person. So thank you for being here.
It's so funny. I feel like I've known you forever. And like when I saw you in person, it was just like,
Hey, bud.
Yeah, I didn't even feel like it was any different.
I know. It's kind of the beauty of like being able to virtually get to know people these days. You don't have to even know them in person to make that connection. I love that. And I'm super excited to be talking to you today because you are the sexpert I go to with all of my questions. And you're going to kind of teach us how to be a black belt in the bedroom today, or us in our audience. And so the first thing I want to ask you is really to give us kind of the 101 on the sexual dysfunctions that you see come up in your men's work, because you are a men's sex and relationship coach, and I'm sure you get a lot of interesting things thrown at you through that work.
Yeah, I do. But I find actually, like, while people think that they're so unique, that their struggles, their problems are so different than what anyone else might have, they're really not. Like, most people are struggling in one way or another, and it tends to be very similar, the struggles that come up over and over again. So, a lot of guys struggle with premature ejaculation, up to 70% of men. So that's a huge majority, guys. You're not alone if that is a struggle that you're having. And even guys that think like, oh, I'm all right, I can go like 10, 15 minutes, that's still not enough to really satisfy her. And they've actually done some studies as well that show that men think that they are lasting longer than they actually are. So
interesting.
Yeah. So you might think you're lasting a certain amount of time, but you're probably not lasting quite that long, and it's still probably not enough to really satisfy her, unfortunately. So that's a big one.
Yeah.
Erectile dysfunction is another big one, and those numbers are just going up all the time. More and more men reporting this struggle. Delayed ejaculation is not talked about nearly as much, but it's a big one. And a lot of guys don't even know that there's a term for this, but they have sex and they can't come, and they're just really sexually frustrated. I kind of liken it to how most women have sex, but
if that ain't true, yeah.
Yeah, like how many times does a woman have sex and she ends up with no orgasm?
Yeah.
So, I definitely can sympathize with that. Porn addiction on the rise constantly, which contributes to all of this. So these are the big ones that I see.
And I had to back to the erectile dysfunction. Why do you think that's on the rise? Do you think that's just more men are comfortable reporting it, or do you think...
Or not on the rise, as it were.
Right. Well, yeah. Good one. Thanks for that. So I'm trying to be serious. So no, not really. No, but do you think it's just more? What do you think? Why do you think that is? Do you think it's your? Do you think it's something going on in the world that we're just starting to understand, or is it maybe people are more comfortable reporting that, or what do you think's going on there?
When you see something like this happen, there's not always a really clear answer. So it could be that people are more comfortable reporting it, that there's more awareness around it. But it is also happening at an earlier age. I think from what I have seen, when men stop watching porn, it helps their sexual function in all areas, including this. So I do think that the rise in porn use is correlated to this. But I think there's other factors as well. But what a lot of men are reporting as erectile dysfunction may not be what doctors in the past would have said, like, this is erectile dysfunction.
Diagnosis.
It is more of a performance anxiety. And a lot of performance anxiety does come from watching porn. Like, there's a lot of unreal expectations that men put on themselves, that men put on their partners from watching porn. And then they feel like they can't measure up to that. They get in their head about it. They can't get it up. And then it just spirals downward. If it happens once, it happens again and again and again.
It's like a mental block or something.
Exactly. So I help a lot of men that have performance anxiety that isn't necessarily like a medical diagnosis, even though I have helped men with the medical issues as well.
Do you have some practitioners, I mean, and I'm just asking generally, that you actually refer people to if you think they would benefit from that, from like the medical side? Like,
yeah, so I work with men all around the world, so it's kind of difficult to, refer people, to different doctors here and there, because doctors you typically are going in person. So there is a urologist in New York where I live that I can refer people to, but other than that, it's kind of hard for me to know urologists
So it's
everywhere.
so much, though, about getting these guys out of this head and into this head, right? And getting them out of that anxiety of what's going to happen. Am I enough? Am I going to perform properly? And back into the body and feeling the sensations. Is that really what you're directing them to do? Like, what are the practices that bring them back to being able to perform the way that they want to?
Yeah. So if you think about it, like, we have these physical bodies that we live in, but what do we spend most of our time developing? Really the intellect, the mental aspect of ourselves. Then secondary typically comes this physical body. Maybe you work out or try and eat healthy. You think about how it looks or the clothes you put on it, that type of thing. But what about the emotional part of us? Like, how many people spend time developing their emotions? Not a lot, really. And then there's the energetic aspect of us as well, which most people are just like, don't ever even think about their energy body unless they're specifically doing some practices around meditation or yoga. But that's a part of us that's really neglected. But if you think about good sex, the last time you had really amazing sex that was super connected, did it have anything to do with your mind, the mental part of you?
Right.
No.
right.
How much did it even have to do with the physical aspect of you? Very little,
right.
really.
It's like a spiritual practice.
Yeah, like, I mean, I've had sex with guys that could, make me squirt all over the place, and I come 9 times, and I still walk away, and it's like, all right, that was fun, but I don't really ever want to see you again. You know what I mean? But like, if I've had a connection, if there's an emotional connection, if there's an energetic connection, that's what blows my mind. And that's the kind of sex that I come back for over and over again.
Right.
And so when wanting to have amazing sex, these parts of you need to be developed. And so most people are coming at sex from really the wrong perspective. And it's causing a lot of struggles because there's so much pressure that they're putting on themselves. And it's really unnecessary.
And so just as a kind of spin-off of that comes to mind for me is that you have this foundation in Tantra, and you have this background of really calling up the spirituality of sex, which I think for a lot of men is a scary aspect of it. Like, oh, I don't want to go into those woo-woo worlds. Like, that doesn't work. Like, obviously, we just need penis and vagina sex, and then we're going to just be fine, And how do you get guys to, maybe it's like slow down enough to approach it from a new perspective, taking out that word of woo-woo or whatever it is around bringing spirituality into the bedroom, and get them to honor themselves and the partner that they're in the bedroom with, without using that language. Because I feel like I'm always trying to like steer away from that type of language with men, especially because I feel like it's off-putting. Is that something you come up against in your work a lot?
Yeah, but I mean, it's really just a very practical matter. Do you want good sex or not? Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, what you're doing isn't working, guys. Like, are you going to try something else, or are you just going to keep beating your head into the wall? Because that's literally what's happening, you know? And by the time men are like 45 years old and they've just done this for so long, they're in so much pain, and they're, you know, the woman they're with isn't having sex with them anymore. Their dick isn't working anymore. They're like, what the fuck am I going to do? Okay, well, are you ready to finally try something different?
Well, yeah. And I think identification is probably pretty important from the guy self-identifying that there is an issue earlier on. Is there a way that, I mean, if you're a guy and you're with your lady, how do you know if you're debriefing yourself or self-evaluating or whatever? Are there some things that they can be thinking about that, man, you know, she seems like she's having fun, and I had fun certainly, but like, are there things they can think about that might say, well, maybe it wasn't great?
Like
as great.
Asking her?
Well, no, I mean, like, well, that would be easy, but like,
but that would be too easy,
if
right?
you're married for a while, then yeah, of course, I would hope, but like. No, I mean, like...
we want to debrief ourselves. We want to be like, oh, I got to figure this out. And I think that's part of the problem, right, yeah. Sarah, is that we want, especially as a man, I think men want to be like, oh, I'm supposed to know how to do this already. And that's part of why...
How do I figure that out? Yeah,
without asking. And I think that's...
How do you do that? Is there a way to do that? Or what would you suggest there? Like, if you're a guy and you've been in a relationship for a couple months and you like having sex with this girl, what should they be Is there something they should be thinking in a sort of debrief?
I mean,
or next time or whatever.
Yeah, like, well, guys that come in and work with me, like, many times they'll not be in a relationship. I mean, I work with a lot of guys that are already in a relationship as well, but the ones that come in, they're not in a relationship. They start a new relationship while working with me. I get this question all the time. Sarah, when should I start talking to her about this? When should we start doing these practices? I'm like, 2 months ago. How long have you been dating her? 2 months? Like, you should have been doing this already. You know what I mean? Like, set the foundation, do this right from the beginning. And it just comes to emotional maturity. Like, we all have to grow up when it comes to sex. And intimate relationships most closely mimic our relationships from our caregivers. Like, for the people we are attracted to, the reason we're attracted to them is because they remind us of mom or dad. And most of us grew up in situations where it was not comfortable to talk to mom or dad about these things. And so we bring this into our adult intimate relationships. We just shouldn't. Like, you know, we got to grow up, and there's just a lot of growing up that has to happen when it comes to sex, and there's no getting around it. You just have to do it. Like,
there's not a magic pill. You have to go through it.
Like, you just have to do it.
and what would you, I mean, because I think if you're a guy, maybe the classic formula, and this is what I, you know, would like you to talk about it is, you know, you're around your guy friends and you know, I know my guy friends, we don't ever talk about that. We just don't, we don't really, we're talking about other stuff, but we're really never talking about that at all.
It's funny because it's like all women talk about
it. I know that it's interesting. And that's why, like, do you have, because oftentimes, you know, you can get bad advice from your guy friends, obviously. Right. So it's like, and I fear like that's probably some of the problem here. And maybe if you look at a guy friend, like you're watching porn, you're getting bad advice. And so I'm guessing. And so what are there something a guy can do, you know, that's watching this right now that's like, that might be me, I don't know. Is there something they can do other than just pick up the phone and call you like today? Is there something they can do, you know, either before they do that, or maybe let's start thinking this way or trying this?
Yeah, there are a lot of great books that you can read that can kind of help start steering you in the right direction. So educating yourself on mature sexuality is a good way to start. There's plenty of, you know, good blogs and things on Instagram that you can check out as well that are going to help with this sexual maturity. But really even just having this mindset of, I need to grow up around my sexuality, you know, like I'm not this...
I don't want to have sex like a teenage boy anymore.
Exactly. Like, it's time to have sex like a man. And a man is mature, right? You're mature in all the different aspects of your life. And that's what women really crave. They want to feel that masculinity, that real strong masculinity. And it comes from growing up. I think that's one of the biggest issues in society, and it's men and women. Like, there's just not a lot of focus on personal development and emotional development. And as soon as we all do that, we're going to be in a much better place in society rather than people reacting from their inner child all the time. And so
I think one of the things that men hear the word self-help and they're like, no, boring. I don't need that. Or I don't know what the thing is. But how do, obviously, like you're saying, well, if you want to have good sex, you're going to have to help yourself here. You're going to have to figure it out. Is there a practical practice that you teach that allows for, maybe we can start with like lasting longer in bed, maybe something around edging, something like that I'm sure is new to our audience in a lot of ways?
Yeah, so you got to have a strong PC muscle if you want to have good sex. After the age of 25, the PC muscle starts to weaken, and that contributes to premature ejaculation. Some guys that don't have PE when they're younger, they'll actually develop it like in their 30s if they haven't been actively working this muscle.
What's PE?
Premature ejaculation.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so a way you can find that muscle to make sure that you're strengthening the right muscle is whenever you are peeing, just stop the flow of urine. And if you do that, I have one of my clients, his thing is every time he pees, he stops the flow of urine 10 times. And he's in his mid 40s, and he came to work with me with premature ejaculation and erectile dysfunction issues, and he's cured all of that. And so but this is like his way of going about it. Like every time he pees, stop the flow of urine 10 times. And he laughs. He's like, if I'm at a urinal, he thinks, the dude next to him is gonna be like, what the fuck is wrong with you, But he doesn't care because he's having epic sex. Yeah. Like he can fuck his fiance's brains out. So, that's one thing. And you got to be doing that. It's like any other muscle. If you're not going to the gym, working out your abs are going to look like shit. So it's just something you got to do. Edging is also important, like edge for 20 minutes while masturbating several times a week. So basically get yourself turned on to like out of, if a level 10 is you're ejaculating, get yourself turned on to like a 7 and then go back down to a 5 and then go up to an 8 and then back down to a 6 and then go up to a 9. Go back down to a 5, like play with it, go up and down, up and down, up and down. Do it for 20 minutes. Don't just go straight for that orgasm in the first couple of minutes. And what this does is it's going to help you last longer, but it really gets you having to focus on your body and what is happening moment to moment with your turn on. Like you have to be lasered in as you're going to know, okay, this is my point of no return. For some guys, they can get to this like 9.999 and they're fine. Other guys can't go over a 7. Like they can't go past a 7 and they're going to ejaculate. Mm-hmm. Okay. So you got to know this about yourself and you're not going to know it unless you play around.
Practice makes perfect. Yeah.
Sure.
And then what about this? Like, as let's say guy and a female, how important is it? I mean, I have my own personal thoughts of this, but I'm asking you because you're our guest, but how important do you feel it is, or does the subject ever just come up of, are you attracted to this person? Like, and if so, what makes them attractive or sexually attractive to you? Because clearly there was some originally, or was something about her, that was attractive to you, maybe her mind or her.
You mean to cure a dysfunction?
No, I don't mean like that. I just mean more, to help maybe, because I guess what I'm saying is if like, you just are like, she just doesn't do it for me visually. Like I don't, because we are visual animals. So I'm wondering, does that even matter? I mean, it might not. I'm not saying it does. I have no idea. Does that fall into any of the discussion there?
Yeah, I mean, definitely there's just that primal physical attraction that we have for people. It does. There's a lot that goes into our attraction. So some of it is biological, things that we have evolved with, that make us attracted to certain people and not attracted to other people. Other is what was nurtured into us as children that also creates attraction. So it's not one or the other, it's both. And of course, as people mature, they get older, they change. The nurture part of it specifically will change more than the biological aspect of it. So, you know, it can, but if you have chemistry with somebody, like if you've ever had it, you can get it back. I see a lot of couples that come in and they're just like, I don't feel attracted to my partner anymore. What do I do? And when you start to get rid of the baggage that has piled up over time, come between the two of you, you can come back to that state of intimacy and attraction.
Okay, and that's I think this is interesting because as far as, let's say a married couple, you've been married 10 years or 15 years and you have a couple children or a child, they're annoying, whatever. How important is it to go back and do those fun date nights where she gets all dressed up and you actually brush your teeth that morning? How important are those? I mean, I feel very important, but how important are those? I mean, like, I feel like I know a decent bit of people that they're like, what are you talking about? You know, we're too busy driving the kids to soccer practice. Like, what, do you have any thoughts on that? Maybe I'm wrong. I mean, do you have any thoughts on that?
Oh yeah. I mean, and it's what kind of example do you want to give to your children? You know, so many people think they're doing their kids the biggest service in the world by taking them here, taking them there, you know, all the stuff that they do for their kids, and neglecting the relationship. But you're not. Like, your relationship is the most important gift that you can give to your children, the example of two parents that are healthy, that love each other. And so that's more important than fucking soccer practice, right? Like, and when guys come to me and they're like, oh, well, I can't do this because my kids have this, my kids have that. I'm like, you're just making excuses. And that's what people do. They just get lazy. They make excuses. And what you just choose, like, we choose in life what our priority is. And most people, after that limerence period wears off, the romantic love period of like 18, it can only last, biologically, it can only last for 18 months, or else we would go crazy.
That honeymoon phase.
Yeah, because of the amount of serotonin and dopamine and adrenaline that's going through the brain during that period. It cannot last longer than that. But people don't understand their biology, and so they start to freak out. They think, oh, we're not in love anymore, it died, and they just kind of give up. Instead of, what I do is I provide a way for people to hack their biology. Like, okay, if you understand your biology, and biology is not in our favor when it comes to long-term monogamous relationships. We have to be proactive about it. And so, yeah, you know, go on date nights, take weekends away together, go on a trip together, get a babysitter. I mean, if you can, and people are like, oh, I can't afford a babysitter, you can't afford dinner. Like, yes, okay, well, you're going to be affording a divorce before you know it.
Yeah, that's not cheap.
You know, you're going to be affording child support payments before you know it. Like, just get your shit together. Get your priorities straight.
Yeah. And as a guy, you know, because I think a lot of these viewers are males, what can I do? I'm a 42-year-old married guy. We've been married, 12 years. Is this like, hey, honey, we're doing date night? I mean, is this like, just take, like, what are your suggestions to like, from a practical standpoint? Mm-hmm. In that scenario? Well, you haven't seen her made up in 8 years, like, how do you, take charge and
create the spark. As the man.
Put it on the calendar. If you need to be the one to find a babysitter, find a babysitter. If you need to move so you can be closer to her mother so mother can watch the kids, fucking do it. Like, how important is your relationship to you? You have to make choices. You have to prioritize this in your life, or it will die and you'll have nothing left except regret.
Speaking of priorities, what do guys need to know? What should they know about pleasuring a woman that they probably don't know?
Everything.
We evil laugh. Why did we just evil cackle together? What just happened? Was this a witch synergy just happened right here? I heard it in my... Okay, go.
I remember I was dating a guy and I was like, we're going to have a threesome with a woman and I am going to go down on her and I'm going to show you
what you should be doing.
Exactly how I want you to do this to me.
Nice.
Boy.
He's like, okay. Sold.
Did it work?
It worked.
Oh, there we go. Okay.
So that's the start of it, is like asking what you want, and then the woman, of course, being able to show too. But you have, I know, specific things that you could probably pull up as far as what men should know about the types of orgasms a woman could have, or, you know, things that guys don't think about it. If they haven't seen it in porn or one of their buddies didn't mention it along the way, they probably don't know about it.
Yeah, so women can have a lot of different types of orgasms in many different parts of their bodies. So the orgasm gap between men and women is really huge. 65% of women in heterosexual relationships say that they orgasm during sex compared to 99% of men. So a lot of women are not even having orgasms at all. And even those that are, I would venture to say they're not having like really amazing orgasms. Like they're not reaching their capacity for orgasm. So it's important, guys, that you master this. She can orgasm, of course, in her clitoris, and you've got to know how to find the clitoris and stay on it. One of the biggest things that men do, like, and most women will know this, like, women won't even tell you that they're coming until, like, they're way past it, because if they tell you, you're gonna stop. You're gonna stop, or you're gonna change what you're doing, or it's the weirdest thing ever. It's like, the hell? No, just stay the course. Whatever you're doing, if it's good, just keep doing it. Don't stop. I really think that is one of the biggest things that men need to learn, is how to have consistency with their rhythm. Whatever you're doing, do it 10 times longer than you think you need to do it. And just don't get too excited. Stay patient. Don't think about your dick. Just be focused on her pleasure. I guarantee your dick is going to get its.
Okay, so when I was younger, my buddy was like, he'd tell everybody, you got to think about baseball. Just be thinking about baseball. And I'm like, okay, whatever. So is that like, I mean, that sounds ridiculous, but that's kind of what you're saying in a way.
Well, the edging practice that she described earlier, I think, is really a miracle. I mean, like, I know the best sex I've ever had is with a guy who knows how to edge and has literally no desire for, well, I shouldn't say desire, because he definitely has a desire to have an orgasm, but knows he's not going to orgasm during this sex session. So now it takes all the pressure off of me to worry about his orgasm, because he's edging, so I know that he's working this energy in his body. He understands Tantra, and he understands like what sexual energy is like in his body and how to hone it, because you can use it for a lot of other cool things. And then in bed and in practice and in lovemaking, it's like I don't have to even think about whatever he's going through, because he's enjoying himself and he's not trying to rush to the finish line or rush me to the finish line. So now it's really about me. And I think that's a huge weight off of my shoulders as a woman. And we've talked about this before, Sarah, because I think I learned this practice probably from you. And then, I was like, you need to read this book. You need to just try this out. And it works. I mean, it works like magic. And not only for me in the bedroom, but for him, because now he's got this energy going through his body all the time. And he'll orgasm, depending on the age of the guy, he's orgasming maybe once a week or every 2 weeks or whatever it is. But he is doing better work in his work. Like, he's making relationship connections in his life because this energy is storing up instead of being dispersed constantly, that I don't think any man on this planet, maybe 1% that listen to your show, know about. They're not accessing this stuff. And it's like true magic.
It is. And I mean, of course, there's times to have other types of sex as well. Like, there's times when maybe the guy is just so incredibly stressed out. He's had such a week at work, and like, as his partner, like as a woman, you can take that from him in sex. You know what I mean? Like, you can just be like, give that to me. I will transmute it. Like, just fuck me, and like, there's a time and a place for that too. Like, but if that's the only type of sex that you're ever having and it's not reciprocal, it gets really old from the female's perspective. And the guys are like, why does she not want to have sex with me anymore? Well, because it just doesn't feel good. Like, why would she want that?
Well, then you're kind of like a caregiver or something at that point in a weird way. So I guess that's a good, the question I had is, I mean, I guess, or it's more of a confirmation, is you first have to care. If you're the guy, you first have to care that you're going to give this woman what she's wanting. And so you have to want to do that first in order to even venture into this world, right?
Well, I think that comes down to like it being a healthy relationship or not.
Well, right,
Yeah.
right. Well, I guess that's my point. Is like you wanted the whole beginning of, because this show's kind of like building some of these blocks together. But I guess you just want to make sure you're in the relationship to begin with, and it's a good relationship, right?
Right. And I mean, I think most of the men that are listening to this, I know the men that work with me, they are the men that do care, you know, and that's who I focus on. Like, if a guy doesn't give a fuck about a woman's pleasure, like, just get out of my world. You know what I mean?
He's not listening to this show right now. So
what are some of the, you know, one of the subjects that Mercedes and I talked about asking you about was porn addiction. Like, is that, how do you deal with that? And what do you see? Let me ask, how often do you see it? And how do you deal with it? Or do you deal with it?
Yeah, it's very common. I actually prefer to call it, people understand porn addiction, that word. And so, you know, it's something that can be used, but I look at it more of a porn dependency. So porn doesn't react with our brain in the same way like alcohol or drugs do, where, you know, you actually develop an addiction to it. And there's disagreements in the world of sex psychology, you know, in terms of sex addiction, porn addiction, that type of thing. I look at it as porn dependence. Like, it's something that we become habituated to. If you're watching porn and you're used to this external stimulation all the time, then that becomes necessary for you to be able to have orgasms, to get an erection. And the more it can come to this place where you need more and more intensity in the porn that you watch. Also, like, you know, what you watched before isn't doing it for you anymore. And there's so much happening in porn, and it's perfect, right? And you're like, okay, this is boring. I'm going to fast forward to this part, or I'm going to move to a different video instead, and you go here and you go there, and there's just so much happening. Like, real sex doesn't work the same way, but if you're training your brain to respond sexually to porn, then that's what you're going to need. And then there's also the chronic masturbation that happens with porn. It's just like this habitual get off in the same way all the time. A lot of men are using what I would refer to as the death grip, like really gripping their penis really hard when they're getting off to porn. A woman's vagina is not going to feel the same way as your hand is if you're like really intense and really hard. Okay. And so it's going to make it more difficult to have orgasms. This is why a lot of guys are having delayed ejaculation. They can't orgasm during sex because of the way they've trained their brain and their body with porn and masturbation. So I don't have the cold turkey approach to getting off of porn, like, is very popular. It's a 6-month process that I offer along with my coaching that guides them through the steps of gradually stopping their dependence on porn by cutting down how they watch it, when they watch it, but also by building up sensation in their body again. So that way it's a 2-pronged approach. It's not like, okay, well, I stopped watching porn, and now I have nothing to replace it. It's literally filling that gap of like, okay, I'm starting to feel my body. And when we're in a society that focuses again so much on this mental aspect of ourselves, we lose touch with what we're actually feeling moment to moment. And that's where I train men, is that like, okay, I can feel the sensations, and then it gets to a point where it's so much better. The men that I work with, none of them are ever interested in porn at all, because they're like, it's like eating fast food. It doesn't fulfill me at all. Like, what I have now is so much better.
Well, and porn doesn't care about you. I mean, they're making money. That's their job.
Right. But I mean, even if they're not with a woman and they're just like masturbating, self-pleasuring on their own, they still don't want to watch porn because it's so much better.
Oh.
Getting in touch with those feelings is what it's all about.
So that is almost all the time we have today.
Yes.
I wanted to where we
have
can
too many more things to talk to you about. We're definitely having you on the show.
Yeah,
again,
that's
of course,
the
Sarrah.
Instagram is at Tantric Activation. So TANTRICACTIVATION. Right?
Got it. Yeah.
In the show notes,
spell today,
they can click on it.
I know. But Mercedes, any other parting words?
I just want to say thank you, Sarrah, for doing the work you're doing, and it's really brazen work. And I really do, mutually. I use the term in a positive way, but I call you a witch because I think we need to normalize that term again in a positive way, because you are really spinning some magic here. And I'm sure a lot of your career, you've been burned at the stake for it as a woman, a beautiful woman in this world, speaking to men, and that whole conversation about objectification. I know you, and I know you are feeling subjectively sexy in your body, and what other people want to do with that, objectify you or not, is really their side of the street. It's none of your fucking business, right?
Right.
And so I absolutely love the work that you're doing, the energy you're putting into it, and that you are just in your queendom. And I see it. I see you. I'm so proud to have you on the show and just proud to know you. So thank you for being here.
Thank you. And right back at you with all of that.
Thank you. And thank you guys for being here with us. And if you want to connect with our community, you can subscribe, comment through the links below. You can find Sarrah at all those links as well. We'll put all of her information down there. And you guys know we do a show every week. So catch us again next week. Bye for now.